Butterfly effect. Welcome back. I'm Adeline Atlas, 11 times published author, and this is Decoding Dystopia, Literature as Prophecy, where we deconstruct the hidden control systems that influence our thoughts, actions, and perceptions. In today's breakdown, we explore The Butterfly Effect, a film that uncovers the hidden consequences of time manipulation and the delicate balance of free will. Released in 2004, the film introduces us to Evan Treborn, a man whose ability to travel back in time allows him to alter key moments of his life. But each small change he makes has a profound ripple effect, demonstrating how every action can set off a chain reaction of unforeseeable events, reshaping the future in ways he can't control or predict. On the surface, The Butterfly Effect is about the tug-of-war between destiny and free will, where the protagonist's choices spiral outward and collide with the lives of others. But beneath this narrative, the film speaks to deeper philosophical and metaphysical truths about time, identity, and the consequences of the decisions we make. Time is not a simple, linear process. It is a complex, interconnected web of potential outcomes, where even the smallest choices can alter the trajectory of existence. In this video, we will decode the core principle of the butterfly effect and how it relates to chaos theory, the illusion of free will and how small actions create exponential consequences, the metaphysical implications of time travel, fate, and the human condition, Evan's journey as a metaphor for breaking free from cycles of trauma and choice, and ultimately, how the butterfly effect functions as a warning about the dangers of manipulation and the unseen consequences of our decisions. Prepare to explore how the smallest changes can reshape everything, and why, in the grand scheme of time, we may never fully control the ripple effect of our choices. We will be decoding 22 concepts in the butterfly effect time as a nonlinear, interconnected web. Chaos theory and the unpredictability of choice, the illusion of free will and its consequences. Evan's journey as a repeated cycle of trauma and redemption, rewriting the past, manipulating time and identity, the cost of intervening in the lives of others, the butterfly effect and the spiritual nature of choice identity, fragmentation and the multidimensional self, the quantum nature of time travel in the film Small Changes, Big Outcomes, the exponential nature of action, the role of memory in shaping reality, fate versus free will, the dance of predestination and choice, the emotional weight of undoing, mistakes, the psychological burden of knowledge, across timelines, self-sacrifice and the desire to rewrite personal history, the illusion of control over time, interconnectedness of lives and the ripple effect, breaking free from cycles of abuse and trauma. The downside of second chances, the law of unintended consequences, exploring the ethics of time travel and manipulating events, the paradox of changing one's past, the endgame, the ultimate price of avoiding the butterfly effect. Let's begin. 1. Time as a nonlinear, interconnected web. The film's depiction of time challenges the linear, cause and effect view of reality. In the butterfly effect, time is not portrayed as a linear sequence of events, but as an interconnected web, where each action reverberates through multiple timelines and dimensions. Evan Treborn's ability to travel back in time reveals that even the smallest changes in the past can create a chain reaction, altering not only his life, but the lives of those around him. This approach to time suggests that the past, present, and future are all interconnected, and each moment is a nexus of infinite possibilities, each branching into its own unique outcome. This depiction of time mirrors the chaos theory, particularly the idea that small causes can lead to disproportionately large effects, often unpredictable and beyond human comprehension. The film suggests that the universe itself operates as a complex system, one where each decision, no matter how insignificant it seems at the time, has the potential to spiral out of control and produce enormous consequences. This interconnected view of time disrupts our conventional understanding of linear history and introduces a more fluid, dynamic conception of existence. On a spiritual and philosophical level, the web of time is a metaphysical reflection of the interconnectedness of all things. The film challenges the notion of free will, suggesting that our actions are not isolated, but part of a much larger fabric of reality. The idea that every action creates ripples across multiple timelines calls us to reconsider how we view our own choices, whether on a personal level or as part of a collective. We are, in a sense, all interwoven into the fabric of time, with our actions always touching, altering, and influencing others in ways we might never fully understand. 2. Chaos theory and the unpredictability of choice. The film presents chaos theory as a central metaphor for the unpredictability of human decisions. At the core of the butterfly effect lies the concept of chaos theory, which posits that in complex systems, even tiny variations in initial conditions can lead to dramatically different outcomes. This is illustrated through Evan's repeated attempts to change events in his past. Each time he alters a small moment, it creates an entirely new path for him and others, often with devastating or unexpected consequences. The film uses chaos theory as a metaphor for the unpredictability of choice, showing that our decisions, even the seemingly insignificant ones, are part of a larger, unmanageable web of possibilities. The film's portrayal of this theory mirrors real-world phenomena where systems of complexity and interconnectedness exist in ways that we often cannot foresee or control. Whether it's weather patterns, social dynamics, or even personal relationships, the idea that small actions can have outsized effects challenges the belief that we can ever truly control or predict the outcomes of our decisions. In fact, it suggests that control itself is an illusion. We can only make choices and hope that the outcomes align with our intentions, but we are never guaranteed the results we expect. This unpredictability serves as a cautionary tale about the limits of human agency. The film asks us to reconsider the nature of consequences, especially when dealing with irreversible changes. While Evan's journey is framed as a quest for redemption, it also highlights the dangerous consequences of trying to alter reality. Each attempt to change the past brings unintended chaos, showing that even with the best of intentions, we may only succeed in creating a new set of problems, an ever-expanding ripple of unpredictable outcomes. 3. The illusion of free will and its consequences. The film challenges the notion of true freedom by showing the costs of altering one's fate. The butterfly effect questions the very nature of free will by showing how Evan, despite his repeated attempts to change his life and correct his past, ultimately faces the same psychological and emotional struggles. Each time he alters a moment in time, he gains a new perspective and seemingly a better life. But the core issues, the traumas, the relationships, and the emotional scars remain the same. The film suggests that free will is an illusion, as Evan's attempts to rewrite his past only bring him closer to the original outcomes, forcing him into an eternal cycle of unresolved trauma and repeating consequences. The true message here is that freedom cannot be achieved by controlling the past. Altering the course of events does not guarantee happiness or resolution. It only shifts the configuration of pain and consequence. The film critiques the very notion of control over one's destiny, implying that the more we try to change our fate, the more we entrench ourselves in it. Each action Evan takes to escape his destiny only reinforces his entrapment in the loops of his past, showing that the real key to freedom may not be changing the circumstances, but accepting them and evolving through them. Evan's ultimate realization that he must let go of the desire to alter his past to truly be free becomes a metaphor for the human condition. We cannot control everything, especially the past, and we must learn to find freedom in acceptance. The consequences of living in a world where free will is not truly ours are that we must confront the limits of our control and embrace the inevitable chaos of existence. True liberation, then, is not about shaping destiny. It is about recognizing the larger pattern and learning to navigate it without the burden of control. 4. Evan's journey as a repeated cycle of trauma and redemption. The struggle between healing and the inability to escape past wounds. Evan's journey in the butterfly effect is defined by the repeated cycle of trauma that he cannot escape, no matter how many times he rewrites his past. Each time he changes a pivotal moment in his life, he believes he is correcting a mistake, either for himself or for those he loves. However, he discovers that no matter how much he tries to fix things, the same emotional scars, psychological wounds, and relational dynamics persist. This repetitive cycle shows that trauma cannot be simply erased by changing external circumstances, and the deeper issue lies in his inability to confront and heal from the root causes of his pain. This cycle is symbolic of the human experience of repeated karmic patterns, where, despite our efforts to escape or alter painful experiences, the unresolved wounds follow us in different forms. Evan's repeated attempts to undo his past are analogous to the unconscious behaviors we repeat, often without realizing it, until we confront the true source of our suffering. His quest for redemption through time manipulation only reinforces the idea that true healing requires personal responsibility and acceptance of the past as it is, rather than trying to rewrite it. In spiritual terms, this process mirrors the idea that we cannot transcend our wounds by running from them. The film suggests that growth does not come from changing the past. It comes from acknowledging it, understanding how it shaped us, and finding ways to transform the present despite it. The cycle of trauma Evan undergoes is ultimately a lesson about the need for inner healing and the integration of past experiences, rather than their avoidance or erasure. This realization marks the first step toward true redemption. 5. Rewriting the past, manipulating time and identity. The ethical and existential implications of changing history. Evan's ability to travel back in time and manipulate key moments in his life raises a fundamental question about the nature of identity and personal evolution. Each time he changes his past, his identity shifts. He becomes a different person with different experiences, values, and relationships. The fluidity of his identity reveals a dangerous truth. Our sense of self is not fixed. It is shaped by our memories, choices, and the events we experience. By altering the past, Evan not only reshapes his history, but erases parts of himself, creating new versions of himself that lose connection to the person he once was. This manipulation of time and identity challenges the belief that identity is a stable, unchanging essence. Instead, it shows that identity is deeply interwoven with experience and memory, and when those are altered, the self becomes fragmented and unstable. Each change Evan makes to his past creates a different version of reality, but at the cost of his authentic self, the very core of who he is. This raises critical questions about free will. If our choices can change our identity so radically, is our sense of self truly ours? Or is it something constructed by the events of our lives? On a deeper level, the butterfly effect asks whether it is ethical to manipulate the past in pursuit of personal gain or correction. Changing the past may seem appealing, but it erases not only past mistakes, but the lessons learned from them. This act of rewriting history comes with a spiritual cost. It disrupts the continuity of the soul's evolution, creating a disjointed narrative where the soul is not allowed to learn from experience and grow. In doing so, the film challenges the illusion that we can ever fully escape our past, and warns of the dangers of losing ourselves in the pursuit of an idealized self. 6. The cost of intervening in the lives of others. When our actions to help others end up altering their fate. Throughout the butterfly effect, Evan's attempts to change his past often involve trying to improve the lives of those he loves, his friends, his family, and his romantic interests. However, his interventions, while well-intentioned, always lead to unintended consequences for those around him. Each time Evan alters a critical moment in someone else's life, he shifts their future, sometimes for the better, but often for the worse. The film thus explores the ethical dilemma of interfering in others' lives. The idea that altering someone's fate, even with the best intentions, can lead to unforeseen consequences that may hurt them more than help them. This theme reveals a deeper truth about the limits of control and the interconnectedness of all lives. Evan's actions are not isolated. They resonate through the lives of everyone he touches. By trying to control outcomes, he becomes entangled in a web of relationships where his choices don't just affect his own destiny, but alter the trajectories of other people's growth. The idea that we can rescue or fix others by manipulating their timelines reflects the hubris of believing we know what is best for someone else, and the cost of that interference is often a loss of genuine connection and freedom. On a spiritual level, the butterfly effect teaches us that we cannot control others' journeys or alter their destinies without consequences. The soul's evolution is a deeply personal process, and while we may want to help, we must recognize that intervening in someone's path can disrupt their unique growth and lessons. This realization is an important part of understanding that true help doesn't come from controlling others' lives, but from offering support, love, and understanding as they navigate their own experiences. We must trust in the flow of others' journeys, even if that means accepting that we cannot control the outcome. 7. The quantum nature of time travel in the film. Exploring the fluid, non-linear dynamics of time and its implications on free will. The butterfly effect treats time travel not as a simple back-and-forth motion through linear chronology, but as a fluid, non-linear process that can branch into multiple realities. Evan's ability to change a single moment in his past triggers quantum-level shifts in the present, where the smallest actions lead to exponentially larger outcomes. This reflects the core concept of quantum theory, which suggests that particles exist in a state of superposition, where multiple realities can coexist until an observation is made. Similarly, Evan's interventions create multiple parallel timelines, each more unpredictable than the last, showing that time itself is not rigid or predetermined, but subject to the vast complexities of choice. In the context of quantum mechanics, time travel is not a simple manipulation of events. Rather, it shows the multidimensional nature of existence, where every change creates a new version of reality. The film suggests that choices are not just actions, they are seeds planted in infinite timelines, each one growing and evolving into a unique outcome. This perspective on time challenges the linear cause and effect worldview that most people live under, opening up the possibility that our choices may ripple outward in ways we cannot predict. The quantum nature of time travel in the butterfly effect reveals the tension between free will and fate. If reality is malleable, shaped by the decisions of the individual, then the future is always open to change. Yet, this also brings an uncomfortable truth. Even small decisions may alter not just our lives, but entire timelines, presenting the risk of perpetual chaos where nothing is ever truly stable. The film asks us to consider, if we can change our past, how far back should we go, and at what cost to the world around us? 8. The paradox of changing one's past. Time manipulation reveals the contradictions of altering one's history. The paradox at the heart of the butterfly effect is simple. Changing the past often makes things worse. Every time Evan alters a moment, he believes he's improving the outcome, but instead, he finds that his actions create unforeseen consequences. This illustrates the fundamental paradox of time manipulation. The more we try to fix the past, the more we distort the future. The act of changing one moment in time sets off an uncontrollable ripple effect, creating a new reality that is just as flawed as the original, if not more so. This paradox speaks to the philosophical idea that our past shapes us, and to attempt to erase or manipulate it can often dissolve the essence of who we are. By changing the events that form the foundation of our identity, we risk losing our true selves in the process. The integrity of our experiences, even the painful ones, is what ultimately molds our character and spirit. In trying to avoid pain or suffering, we may inadvertently rob ourselves of the opportunity to learn, grow, and heal from those experiences. The paradox also plays out in a broader societal context. We cannot control our histories. Whether through personal decisions or collective actions, altering history always creates the risk of undoing progress or even destabilizing the foundational principles of a society. The film suggests that history must be respected for its complexity and value, even when it's painful or uncomfortable. Time, like identity, is best left to unfold naturally. Attempting to control it too much only traps us in a loop of regret and distortion. 9. The downside of second chances. The law of unintended consequences. The danger of using second chances as a way to fix the past. One of the most powerful themes in the butterfly effect is the danger of second chances. The illusion that we can correct mistakes, alter the course of our lives, or make things right by simply rewriting our past. Evan's repeated attempts to change his history lead to unintended consequences that escalate in severity each time he tries to fix something. He learns that the more we try to improve our past, the more we risk disrupting the delicate balance of events that form our present lives. Each attempt at correction creates a new set of problems, revealing the inherent flaw in believing that one can truly reset time without sacrificing something essential. This concept reflects the law of unintended consequences, which holds that actions, no matter how well-intentioned, often lead to unforeseen and sometimes disastrous results. In the context of time travel, the desire to fix mistakes, or to give oneself a second chance, can result in a cascade of changes that are impossible to control. What starts as an innocent effort to improve one aspect of life can spiral out of control, impacting people and events in ways that cannot be predicted. The film's ultimate message here is that second chances, while appealing, come with profound risks. Sometimes the desire to alter the past is rooted in regret, guilt, or the need for redemption, but the act of trying to change the past can unearth new challenges that are far worse than the original problem. The butterfly effect warns that true healing and growth do not come from manipulating the past, but from learning to navigate life as it unfolds, accepting the imperfect and often chaotic nature of existence. 10. Evan's fragmented identity, across multiple realities. The loss of self in a world where identity is shaped by ever-changing timelines. As Evan manipulates his past, his identity becomes fragmented. Each shift in the timeline reconfigures who he is, how he relates to others, and what his sense of self becomes. The more he attempts to fix the past, the more his core identity fractures into versions that exist across multiple realities. He is no longer a single person with a coherent history, but rather a man who exists as a collection of alternate selves, each one carrying different experiences, desires, and traumas. This fragmented identity underscores a deeper philosophical truth about the nature of selfhood. It is not as fixed as we believe. Our identity is constructed not just by our memories, but by the choices we make and the people we interact with. Every time Evan alters the past, he changes the foundational building blocks of his identity, displacing the person he was for someone he doesn't recognize. This disconnection from self causes him psychological distress as he loses touch with who he truly is, leading to an existential crisis where he is forced to question the very nature of his existence. Evan's journey reveals a powerful metaphor for the human struggle with identity in a world where external forces shape our sense of self. In our own lives, we too experience the pressure of multiple identities, family roles, professional personas, social expectations, sometimes leading us to lose touch with our core self. The film asks us, how do we reclaim our true identity in a world where we are constantly forced to adapt, change, and meet the expectations of others? It suggests that true authenticity lies in integrating all aspects of our experience, without relying on the illusion of changing the past to shape who we are. 11. The moral implications of time travel and changing the past. What are the ethical boundaries of altering history? The moral quandaries presented in the butterfly effect revolve around the ethical implications of manipulating time. As Evan repeatedly attempts to change his past, he is forced to confront the consequences of his actions. Each intervention, while motivated by the desire to improve things for those he loves, often leads to unforeseen and destructive outcomes. The ethical dilemma here is clear. Is it right to interfere with the timeline of others, to alter their lives and destinies, even with the best intentions? By attempting to fix his own life, Evan also disrupts the lives of those around him, causing pain, trauma, and loss. This mirrors the fundamental issue with changing the past, the unpredictability of consequences. Even if we want to correct perceived wrongs or undo mistakes, we do not have the right to unilaterally alter someone else's path. The film suggests that altering the past in a selfish attempt to fix personal regrets or pain is morally problematic, as it encroaches on the autonomy and experience of others. The film ultimately teaches that moral responsibility is rooted in living with the consequences of our actions, not in escaping them through time manipulation. Each choice we make, even in the face of suffering, shapes not only our own identity, but the world around us. Time travel, as a tool for altering the past, ultimately calls into question whether we have the right to control the fates of others, or if true morality lies in accepting the natural flow of life and learning from its inherent imperfections. 12. The emotional burden of knowledge. Across timelines. The pain of knowing what could have been, and the weight of carrying multiple realities. One of the deepest emotional struggles Evan faces in The Butterfly Effect is the burden of knowledge that comes with his ability to alter time. Each time he travels back and changes his past, he retains the knowledge of all the realities he has lived through, and this overwhelming awareness causes him great psychological distress. He remembers the versions of his life that could have been, the people he could have loved, and the choices he could have made. But now, they are only painful memories of alternate versions of himself. The emotional weight of this multidimensional self-awareness is a central theme in the film. This burden reveals a key human challenge. When we gain the ability to see multiple possibilities for our lives, we also experience the emotional toll of knowing what we have lost or could have had. The Butterfly Effect portrays how living with the knowledge of alternative realities can lead to emotional fragmentation and suffering, as we are unable to reconcile the different versions of ourselves that exist in parallel. It asks a profound question. Can we truly find peace when we know that all paths could have led to something different, something better or worse? The emotional burden of carrying multiple realities also highlights the tension between freedom and the weight of choice. While Evan's ability to alter the past gives him the illusion of control, it also makes him unable to live in the present, as he is forever haunted by what could have been. The suffering that comes with this awareness underscores the theme of acceptance, the need to embrace the reality we are in, regardless of the alternate versions that might have existed. True freedom is not in rewriting history, but in living fully in the moment we have, without the emotional baggage of what might have been. 13. The unseen cost of second chances. The paradox of giving ourselves another shot at life. At what cost? In The Butterfly Effect, the ability to rewrite the past is presented as the ultimate second chance, a way to undo mistakes, save loved ones, and potentially live a better life. However, each attempt at creating a better version of reality ends up revealing a profound truth. Second chances often come with unseen costs that far outweigh the initial benefits. While Evan believes he can erase his past trauma and pain, each decision creates new, often worse consequences that he cannot anticipate. What begins as a desire to fix his life turns into a cycle of destruction, showing that no moment in time is isolated. Changing one thing inevitably impacts everything else. This notion of second chances taps into a universal human fantasy, the belief that if we could go back and change our mistakes, we could fix everything. But the Butterfly Effect shows us that time is not a simple linear flow, and manipulating it without fully understanding its intricacies only leads to more suffering. It raises an uncomfortable truth. We cannot truly control time. The more we try to alter our path, the more we become entangled in the consequences of our choices, often finding that the road to redemption is paved with more complexity and pain. In the context of life outside of the film, this theme speaks to the dangerous allure of perfectionism, the desire to perfect our past decisions and experiences. The film asks us to consider, what if the pain we carry is integral to our growth? The cost of erasing mistakes and redoing life may be the loss of wisdom, overstanding, and resilience that comes from accepting our flaws. Second chances are not inherently freeing. They can become the very cage that traps us in a perpetual cycle of self-sabotage and regret. 14. The law of unintended consequences in time travel. The more we manipulate time, the more we set off unpredictable, often disastrous outcomes. A central theme in The Butterfly Effect is the law of unintended consequences, the idea that every action, even the most seemingly insignificant, can lead to unpredictable and often devastating results. Evan's repeated attempts to change his past, no matter how well-intentioned, lead to consequences that spiral out of his control. Each change sets off a chain reaction of events that he cannot fully predict or manage, revealing how even small alterations to the timeline can have massive, often destructive outcomes. This reflects the core principle of chaos theory, which argues that small causes can have outsized effects, often beyond human understanding. This concept is deeply philosophical, challenging the idea that we can ever truly control our lives. While we may make decisions based on the best available knowledge, we are always subject to the unpredictability of life, where even the smallest choice can ripple outward and change the course of our entire existence. The Butterfly Effect shows us that time travel, while a fantasy of control, highlights the inherent limits of human agency, and that manipulating time creates more chaos, confusion, and harm than it does clarity or salvation. The law of unintended consequences also reflects the dangerous hubris of believing we can control or fix everything. The film suggests that rather than trying to perfect our past or future, we must learn to accept the unknown and live with the consequences of our actions. The challenge is not to change the past, but to move forward with awareness, responsibility, and a willingness to navigate life as it unfolds, with all its unpredictability. 15. The paradox of control, free will versus predestination. Exploring the tension between free will, fate, and the cyclical nature of time. One of the deepest philosophical questions posed by the Butterfly Effect is the paradox of control. Are we truly free to shape our destiny, or are we simply playing out a predetermined script? Throughout the film, Evan seems to be acting out of his own free will, attempting to change his past and shape his future. However, as he manipulates time, he realizes that each choice he makes leads him into preordained outcomes, making him wonder if he is truly in control or merely fulfilling a script laid out by unseen forces. This tension between free will and predestination is central to the film's narrative, as it explores whether we can ever truly escape the cycles of fate. The film positions Evan's efforts to change his past as a struggle for self-determination, yet every intervention only seems to guide him back to a predetermined fate, where his actions, despite being freely chosen, lead to outcomes that reinforce his sense of entrapment. This cycle of choice and consequence creates a paradox where free will exists, but only within the boundaries of a larger, controlling system. Evan's repeated failure to achieve lasting change suggests that the illusion of control is often more potent than true freedom. We may feel like we are shaping our lives, but we are often trapped by larger forces, whether they be societal expectations, genetic predispositions, or, in this case, the very laws of time. On a deeper, metaphysical level, the butterfly effect asks whether the quest for control is an illusion in itself. It challenges the assumption that free will is the ultimate answer to human suffering, suggesting that acceptance of fate and overstanding our place within the grand tapestry of existence might offer true peace. The tension between free will and predestination remains unresolved, but the film encourages a shift in perspective. Perhaps the key to freedom lies not in changing time, but in embracing the flow of existence as it unfolds, accepting our place within the cosmic order without the need to manipulate it. 16. The paradox of redemption. Through time travel. Can the cycle of trauma ever truly be broken through time manipulation? In The Butterfly Effect, Evan's quest for redemption is framed by his repeated attempts to alter his past, hoping to right his wrongs and protect those he loves. However, each attempt to redeem himself through time travel only brings further entanglement in the very problems he tries to fix. This highlights the paradox of redemption. Evan's efforts to heal the past create new, unexpected harm, preventing him from ever reaching true emotional resolution. The more he manipulates time, the more deeply he becomes enmeshed in the fabric of his own trauma. This paradox suggests that true redemption cannot be achieved by altering the past. Evan's repeated cycles of intervention only deepen his wounds and amplify the consequences of his actions. It raises an important question. If we could change our past mistakes, would it truly lead to healing? Or would it merely perpetuate a cycle of regret and self-inflicted harm? The film suggests that the path to true redemption lies not in the power to change the past, but in the courage to accept responsibility for it and learn from it. In broader spiritual and philosophical terms, the film underscores a key lesson. Time and personal evolution cannot be bypassed. The illusion that one can redeem oneself by erasing past mistakes overlooks the deeper truth that growth comes through experience, acceptance, and forgiveness, not through time manipulation. The real redemption comes when we embrace the imperfection of the past and use it as a springboard for personal transformation, rather than trying to escape it altogether. 17. The psychological burden of time travel knowledge. The weight of knowing multiple versions of reality and the trauma of memory manipulation. One of the most disturbing consequences of Evan's ability to manipulate time is the psychological burden of carrying knowledge across multiple timelines. Every time he alters a moment in his past, he retains the memories of the version of reality he has just left behind. This gives him the burden of multiple identities, each one built on different decisions, relationships, and outcomes. While time travel offers the illusion of choice, it also weighs Evan down with the emotional trauma of knowing all the realities he's altered. This psychological toll mirrors the existential crisis faced by many when they are confronted with the knowledge of multiple possible versions of their life. The burden of knowing what could have been, and living with the emotional scars of multiple identities, disintegrates the sense of self. Evan's journey through these timelines illustrates how knowledge of the past can become a source of anguish, preventing him from finding peace in any version of himself. The film suggests that the more we know about alternate paths, the less we may overstand about our true selves, as we become trapped by the possibility of what we might have been. In a broader context, this is a warning about the dangers of excessive reflection on what could have been. Our minds are constantly revisiting the past, imagining alternate choices and outcomes. But the film warns us that obsessing over past choices prevents us from embracing the present moment. The true freedom lies in letting go of multiple potential selves and learning to accept and grow from the life we've lived, without being haunted by the ghosts of what might have been. 18. The burden of changing fate. Free will versus preordained destiny. Does altering fate truly offer freedom, or does it reinforce the illusion of control? The central tension in The Butterfly Effect is the paradox between free will and destiny. Evan's attempts to change the course of his life and those around him are rooted in the belief that he can escape his preordained fate, that by altering certain moments, he can control the trajectory of his future. However, the film reveals a deeper truth. Fate is not something we can outrun or rewrite. Each time Evan tries to correct the timeline, he only deepens the complexity of his existence, showing that true freedom doesn't come from rewriting destiny, but from accepting the path we are on. The film highlights the tension between control and surrender. The more Evan tries to take control of his destiny, the more entangled he becomes in the web of fate. This dynamic reflects the illusion of control that many people live under, believing that through sheer will or intervention, they can escape the cycles of their past. But as the butterfly effect reveals, altering fate may only reinforce the illusion that we control the future, when, in reality, the true nature of life involves acceptance of the present moment, acknowledging that not everything can be controlled. On a philosophical level, the film asks us to reconsider the relationship between fate and free will. Are we truly free to make choices, or are we simply playing out a preordained script? The butterfly effect suggests that freedom lies not in altering the past, but in living fully within the present, accepting the consequences of our choices, and learning to navigate life with awareness, rather than the illusion of control. True freedom comes from embracing the present moment and stepping into the flow of life without the need to manipulate it. 19. The downside of second chances, the law of unintended consequences. The more we manipulate the past, the more we set off unforeseen, often disastrous outcomes. In the butterfly effect, the idea of second chances is both a gift and a curse. Evan's ability to travel back in time and change events presents him with the illusion that he can fix mistakes and redeem himself. However, every attempt at fixing his past sets off a cascade of unintended consequences, each more complex and destructive than the last. Every time Evan changes one element of his life, he finds that the new version of reality is not only imperfect, but often worse than the original. The film demonstrates how the desire for second chances often leads to greater chaos rather than resolution, echoing the law of unintended consequences, where even the smallest changes can ripple outward, altering not only our fate, but the fates of everyone we touch. This paradox reveals that the desire to control time and outcomes, to correct the past, can inadvertently rob us of the lessons we need to grow. Evan's attempts to perfect his past erode the very authenticity of his life. By interfering, he creates a world of increasing complexity and unpredictability, showing that trying to fix things often backfires. His journey teaches that the consequences of our actions, even when driven by good intentions, are often unpredictable. The quest for a perfect past can overshadow the importance of living with the lessons of the present, accepting the imperfections that make us human. Philosophically, the butterfly effect suggests that true redemption doesn't lie in erasing mistakes, but in embracing the consequences of those mistakes. Every action, even a mistake, teaches us something essential about our nature. The real cost of second chances is not the change itself, but the loss of the opportunity to grow from our failures. The film underscores the importance of accepting our past as part of who we are, rather than attempting to control it, and in doing so, learning how to live more authentically and with greater wisdom in the present. 20. The spiritual cost of escaping our past. What happens when we try to run from our history and the consequences of our actions? At the heart of the butterfly effect is the idea that escaping the past, whether through manipulation or denial, comes at a profound spiritual cost. Every time Evan tries to rewrite his history, he is essentially running from the parts of himself he cannot face. Whether it's guilt, trauma, or regret, Evan believes that by changing his past, he can escape his demons. However, the more he tries to outrun his past, the more his inner self becomes fragmented. The film reveals a deeper truth. Running from the past never leads to true peace or growth. It is only by confronting it and integrating it into the present that one can find true resolution. This theme touches on spiritual concepts of karma and wholeness, where unresolved past experiences are carried with us, regardless of how many times we try to rewrite them. The butterfly effect shows that true healing requires facing our past head-on, accepting the mistakes we've made, and learning to grow from them. Evan's repeated attempts to alter time and avoid the consequences of his actions only deepen his sense of loss, suggesting that the act of running from our history only increases the burden. In spiritual terms, the soul cannot evolve if it refuses to face the lessons of its past. The film asks us to consider the spiritual consequences of avoidance, whether through time manipulation or emotional repression. The cost of running from our past is not just the loss of growth, but the loss of authenticity. True spiritual freedom comes from embracing our past, both the beautiful and the painful, and learning how to incorporate it into our present selves. In this way, the butterfly effect teaches that only by facing our truth, the past we cannot change and the mistakes we cannot undo, can we truly transcend the cycles of trauma and find peace. 21. The burden of altering reality. What happens when we become gods of our own lives, altering fate and controlling timelines? One of the most profound questions the butterfly effect raises is the ethical and spiritual burden of altering reality. When Evan manipulates time, he assumes godlike control over his own existence, shifting moments of his life to shape a better future. However, with this power comes the realization that altering reality comes with immense responsibility. Each time Evan tries to correct the past, he inadvertently plays God, deciding what is right for others and for himself, without understanding the deeper consequences of his actions. The film portrays the cost of having control over destiny, and the loneliness and confusion that arise when the line between creator and creation becomes blurred. Evan's actions illustrate the danger of absolute control over time. While we may desire to shape our future, the film demonstrates that altering reality in such a way can lead to unintended chaos. Just as Truman's world in The Truman Show was crafted by an all-powerful creator, Evan's reality is shaped by his constant meddling with time, turning him into a figure who must continually wrestle with the consequences of his godlike power. The butterfly effect warns that altering reality without considering the holistic consequences can lead to deeper alienation, as the very act of controlling time strips away authentic human experience, where learning, growth, and acceptance are exchanged for illusionary perfection. Ultimately, the film asks whether true power over time is a gift or a curse. When we take control of our own fate, can we maintain our humanity, or do we risk becoming detached from the very essence of what makes us real? The butterfly effect suggests that the burden of altering reality is not one to be taken lightly. It is a reminder that true freedom is found not in control, but in the acceptance of life's natural flow, where we must learn to navigate life's chaos rather than try to manipulate it. 22. The legacy of the butterfly effect, the illusion of control and free will. What does the future look like when we believe we can control time and fate? The legacy of the butterfly effect is its powerful message about the illusion of control. As Evan manipulates his past, he constantly confronts the painful truth that altering time does not lead to greater freedom or happiness. Each change he makes leads him deeper into confusion, trauma, and the realization that fate cannot be controlled. It is not something to be rewritten, but to be understood, navigated, and accepted. The film shows that the more Evan tries to manipulate his life and the lives of others, the more he becomes ensnared in a web of unintended consequences. This reflection is not just a cautionary tale about time travel, but about the human desire for control over our lives and futures. The film asks us to consider what happens when we believe we can control time, our actions, and the outcomes of the lives we touch. Is it possible that by trying to control too much, we lose the very essence of what makes us human? The legacy of the butterfly effect is not just about the chaos theory, but the deeper understanding that control over time and destiny is an illusion that distorts the very fabric of life itself. Ultimately, the message of the butterfly effect is that true freedom and spiritual growth come not from trying to rewrite the past or manipulate the future, but from living in the present moment. By accepting the impermanence of life, embracing its uncertainties, and learning to make peace with our past mistakes, we can begin to break free from the cycles of trauma, guilt, and regret that tie us to an illusory sense of control. The film invites us to consider whether the key to freedom lies not in changing history, but in accepting the lessons that it has to offer. Final wrap-up. And with that, we conclude this deep dive into the butterfly effect. Today, we explored the profound psychological, philosophical, and metaphysical implications of time travel, free will, and the consequences of manipulating the past. Through Evan's journey, we discovered that the illusion of control can entrap us in endless loops of regret, while true liberation comes from embracing the present and accepting our past as part of our evolution. The film teaches us that while time travel and second chances might seem like the ultimate solution to life's mistakes, they can often lead to chaos and deeper confusion. The real power lies in living fully in the now, accepting the natural flow of time, and trusting that the choices we make, while impactful, are not always as controllable as we wish. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the butterfly effect. If you found insights in this decoding, remember, the past is not something we can change, but it is something we can learn from. This is the end of this decoding. Stay tuned for more deep dives, and remember, freedom comes not from rewriting history, but from fully embracing the present and creating the future you choose. Hi, I'm Adeline Atlas, 11x published author, and what you just watched was only a taste of what's inside the Truth series, where we go all the way down the rabbit hole. If you're the kind of person who's always asking bigger questions, who knows there's more to this world than what we've been told, then this is your invitation to the series that was built for you. Inside the Truth series, you'll get full access to 6 mind-blowing sub-series designed to wake up your highest intelligence and decode the matrix we live in. 1. Locate the truth. Learn how to actually research, not just what to search, but how to verify, cross-reference, read declassified files, and protect your own mind from weaponized misinformation. This is truth-seeking, decoded. 2. The Mandela effect. Are we shifting timelines? Why do so many people remember a different past? We break down the most bizarre, undeniable examples of reality glitches and what they tell us about consciousness and control. 3. Law is magic. Law is not what you think it is. From word spells to maritime law and hidden contracts, we uncover how legal systems use language like a wand, and how to stop being tricked by fine print that binds you without consent. 4. Entertainment or ritual. The Hollywood and music industries are not just for entertainment. From Super Bowl rituals to Grammy stage symbolism, we decode what's really being shown, who it serves, and why mass consciousness is the target. 5. Decoding dystopia. Ever wondered why dystopian fiction feels prophetic? In this subseries, we decode popular films and books, Hunger Games, 1984, Black Mirror, to reveal the hidden blueprints and predictive programming behind the plot. 6. MK Ultra plus mind control programs. This one gets deep. From real MK Ultra documents to modern symbolism in media, we expose how mind control operates in plain sight and how to free yourself from manipulation you didn't even know was happening. And that's just the beginning. If this resonated with you, click the links below and join us inside the Full Truth series, because the more you know, the harder you are to control. This is your awakening. We don't just ask questions, we find answers. Let's go all the way down the rabbit hole together.